Good morning, Jolene.
Good morning, Kelly.
So, who are we talking with today?
Oh, today we're going on an adventure. We are talking to Sandra Colton-Medici. She is a designer. She's a coach. She is a blogger. She is a little bit of everything where she teaches you how to monetize your brand. And she has such beautiful fashion advice as well. If you were to check her out, you're going to see a lot of it. So through events, workshops, and challenges, she gives the pathway and helps for new female owned businesses to define who they are and to really set up their branding message.
Yeah, Sandra's awesome. I have had the opportunity to speak in some of her events that she holds, these virtual events, and they are like amazing. I mean, I've seen and been involved with a lot of virtual events. I've thrown a lot of virtual events, but they pale in comparison to this woman. She has at least one event that I've been a part of 2 years in a row now, where it's like, I think it's like 2 or 3 days of like live streaming for like the whole day. And
Wow.
she has all these different speakers, and then she'll come in between. It's just like the amount of skill it takes to put something like that together to begin with, but
Mm-hmm.
also to keep it engaging and interesting. And I mean, she's got people who are actively engaged in every aspect of, what she's live streaming. And, as someone who has, like I said, hosted some of my own events before, that is not easy to do.
Right. She has definitely built a huge and beautiful community. And I am very excited to share that community with our community because that's what it's all about, right? So
Absolutely.
let's get started. Let's start talking to Sandra right now.
All right. Hi there, villagers. I'm Kelly,
And I'm Jolene, and this is the Success Through Community podcast.
where we believe that solopreneur success really does take a village.
I see it really as the lifeline.
It's been essential in getting my business to where it is today.
We're talking with women just like you who know that the secret to their success is their community.
Have you found your village yet?
Hello, Sandra. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank
For
you.
those of us joining, we have Sandra, a social strategist and fashion goddess, if you ask me, joining us today on the podcast. Just to go over a few things, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I have done a lot in my past, and I'm in the process of a pivot. How's that for alliteration for you in the morning? Okay, so I was in entertainment for about 30 years. I was a singer, dancer, actor in Hollywood, and have done some pretty exciting stuff with Rihanna and Justin Timberlake and Snoop Dogg and a lot of different entities like the Lakers and things like that. For me, I pivoted and I published a magazine. I was an editor-in-chief for 5 years. And then I decided to go back to school. After school, I then decided that the internet, like many people during the pandemic, was the way to go. And I started a company called College of Style. And now I help online business owners really figure out their social strategy. And specifically, I do help more on the e-commerce side owners, people who are interested in selling products online, specifically in the fashion and style side. So that's what I do.
Love that. I love that. That is so fantastic. I cannot wait to read your book.
Oh,
Your book. You're gonna bring out. You're gonna write a book.
I'm like my memorial.
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
know. I was
kicking.
like, whoa, back
And it's gonna be great. Yeah, I
She's
know.
already writing my eulogy, girl.
Yeah, it's early. It is so early for me.
It's okay. It's okay.
Memories. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna read your book when you write it. So just send me
Biography.
biography.
Oh, I was wondering because I have 2 books already out. So
Yeah, no, what are you talking about? Your history.
I know I am planning on writing a third. I have a third kind of already started. So yeah.
Well, if it's not your life story, I still want to read it, but I am so interested in the life story here. I mean, Rihanna, Snoop Dogg, you look like a Laker girl. I mean, come on, this is going to be great.
Well,
Right.
I definitely still have the memorabilia. I have the flyaway shorts, that kind of were made iconic by Paula Abdul. So I do have that, and I'm going to frame them one day, I've decided.
Oh, I love it.
That's amazing. I love it. So, Sandra, one of the things that we like to do kind of early on is throw a little bit of rapid fire questions at you. So these are questions you have not seen in advance, but they're not scary. I don't think they're scary, but they do sometimes catch us off guard a little bit. Even those of us who wrote them, sometimes we got caught off guard when we heard a question. So so just, try not to overthink. Just try to like think of what comes first to your mind. Because I feel like for me, I've noticed it's been really telling, like for myself, but also for our guests. Like we're learning a lot about ourselves in these questions. So try to let them do their thing. But I'm going to go ahead and throw some of those at you. So the first one being, what would you say is the best thing about having your own business?
Waking up when you want.
Yeah, I love that.
Because for me, I'm a night owl. So if I decide to, go, I don't have to like make sure that I'm up at 8:00 to go to somebody else's job, so. Very
true. Very true. Except for today when we asked you to come super early. Sorry about that. Okay. What is the hardest thing about having your own business?
Staying on task.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's so many things to do.
Always. Describe yourself in 5 words.
Articulate, knowledgeable, frazzled, spontaneous, and giving.
Oh, I like those. And I have to say, you came up with those probably faster than anybody else. Everybody gets to the first 3 and then we're like, I don't know. In what location are you the most productive?
Productive, like I actually do the task or I come up with the task?
Do the task, like get the most work done. Yeah.
In the bathroom? I am a whiz on my phone. That's a bad choice of words. I am really amazing. I am amazing at multitasking while using the restroom, because that phone, I am like, yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit that I'm in that camp as well. So
yeah,
just saying.
You can run a company on a phone, so
you can. I mean, most of the pins that I pin on Pinterest probably happened there. That's all I'm saying. At what time of day, and you kind of already answered this a minute ago, but at what time of day do you get your best work done?
About 2 a.m.
Oh, I was not expecting that. I was expecting more like actual night, not middle of the night. That's good.
Well, I grew up in Vegas, so night is night for me. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I did, I worked in the Mandalay Bay, and I was up from, I did go dancing for a few years, and that was like prime time, from about 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. And then sometimes I would go work out at the gym afterwards, because, you're up. And then I would sleep in the middle of the day. It was the best life. The best life. Because there's no traffic, right? You're, in the middle of the night, there's no 5 o'clock traffic, right? Yeah.
Especially in Vegas, like there's a bunch of people walking, but there's not like traffic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, so one of the things that we're obviously focusing pretty heavily on in this podcast is community, right? It's called Success Through Community, because we personally believe that community is the key. It's like the secret sauce, right, behind being an entrepreneur and being successful and content as a solopreneur, especially. So what would you say is your favorite online community, whether that's a Facebook group or anywhere else?
You know what? I don't have one, but I have to say this one because I keep seeing people and seeing their social. So I'm going to say, I should say my own, because I have a mighty network, but I'm just going to say somebody else's because I think that they need a little shout out. And I interviewed the CEO, is Meetup. Meetup is very interesting because it went from being very in person to going only online to now having this hybrid kind of community, which I think is like, it's like the evolution of community, is if you can do that where you feel like you're building relationships in person and then be able to navigate how to keep those going while you can't see people, and then figure out how to be okay with that person now back in your space. I just thought that was miraculous. Like, however they did that, I think that is brilliant. Now, if I'm part of one, meaning like I actually have joined one, I would say the new one, which is on Post, because a lot of people have migrated from Twitter to being on this new app called Post. And to me, that's the most fun, I would say, because it's being built right now. So it can be whatever anybody wants. And I think that kind of like community building where you kind of like anything goes, okay, let's do this over here. Let's try this over here. Let's, network this way instead of what we've been doing. That to me is fun because you're seeing new and different people try new and different things that don't feel so stuffy or how it's always been done, that kind of thing. And so seeing that community start from people who were on Twitter who are looking for something as good as like the connection they used to have, but building it in a way where they know they're not going to get the negativity that kind of came along with a social media platform, and see how that goes. Like, that's something that I've seen myself get into and be like, oh, I didn't know that person was on Twitter, but now I see them on Post, and now I'm going to interact with them because now they're my new friend over here. So I think the newness and the unknowing of where it's going is really fun. In addition to the meetup communities that I think are very niche. And I think that helps them build on their communities in a way that I don't see in like, even on Mighty Networks or even on some other social platforms that have the community aspect of it. I think that they're very much honed in on who they are.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting to hear about Post and how it's going to be growing, because that's by trying all these new things and going all these different directions is the only way everything is going to grow, right? It's the only way all these communities are going to really find who they are and where they belong. And a lot of people need something like that. So it's fascinating to see that is up and coming. And I think it's great. So thank you for giving it a shout out. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I find it interesting that you mentioned Meetup too, because I had no idea it went through that evolution. I was never really part of, I'd looked at Meetup before, like trying to find certain, not for business per se, but just, my husband and I are in our 40s. We don't have kids. It's very hard to find other people like us to like meet up with and hang out with. And I have yet to find, to be fair, I haven't looked since I moved to Idaho, so I probably should do that. But I had yet to find anything that really looked our speed, and so I kind of didn't really put a lot of energy into being on there. So I just wasn't aware that they made those shifts. And I think that's really cool. I'm going to have to check that out. Yeah. Thanks for shouting that out.
Or you can build your own, right? You could.
Yeah. I don't want the pressure of being in charge of it. I just want to show up or not show up. You know what I mean? I have enough things I'm like leading and running that I just want to show up for this one.
Exactly.
I love that.
I'm right. That's about it.
Yeah. So,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you to explain to us this pivot that you're doing, because sorry, it is really early. Wow, I need more coffee. You explained to us you have this amazing life, go dancing, and the whole fashion thing and everything you've done, and right now you're pivoting into the business strategy and the social media. It doesn't sound like that's something that you've always wanted to do. So can you kind of explain what you've always wanted to do and how it led you into becoming this social media strategist?
So I would say that social media wasn't around back in the day. So I didn't even know that I wanted it or could do it or needed it in my life, kind of a thing. But I do think that I've always been sort of a social butterfly, right? In that I've always kind of gravitated to interviewing people, wanting to know more about people. Like my major in college was sociology, like knowing about groups and people and communities and things like that. And just knowing more about people helps me kind of figure out like who I am as a person too, you know, like, do I like that too? Or who, you know, what am I about? So for me, the pivot really helps me not necessarily define who I am, but redefine. And it kind of reminds me of Madonna, right? I'm not Madonna. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that she has reinvented herself over and over and over for so many years. And I do think that people who have that ability, even like a Lady Gaga or, you know, I think even Barack Obama is reinventing himself over and over because he's not, you know, president, right? But he is a figure, right? He's a public figure. And he and his wife, you know, Michelle Obama, they come out with books. They come out with things like Oprah, who has, you know, different kinds of Oprah dailies, you know, like she has done the reinvention as well. And to me, it's not about the not knowing and pivoting to something that I didn't know that I wanted to do. It's really about discovering something new that's super fun that I'm really good at, right? And that's the thing that I think is really kind of cool about saying to yourself, like, I like this, I'm gonna go do that. Instead of feeling like, I know that I can do this and I'll do it when I get around to it. And I think that a lot of people do that a lot of the time because they are very comfortable in it. And I would say that my sister is very much like this. She wants to have a very steady job with a very steady paycheck. And entrepreneurs are not those people, right? Because they don't know when that's coming. They don't know a lot about a lot, but they are so energized and so kind of gung-ho about it that they're just going to jump in there, right? And I think that those two differences from her and I had led me down the entertainment path where I didn't know where my next gig was going to come from. I didn't know if I was going to, you know, make $1,000 or $50 or just be paid in pizza at the time, you know, like now we got some rates and some unions and things like that. But at the time, you know, it's kind of like, let's just do it, you know? And I think that when I got married, I got a really stable job and I got, you know, the 40-hour-a-week thing, but I was still in fashion. I was still in education. I was still in that. And to me, I was like, why can't I do that and not work for these other people, right? Why can't I do that and do that for myself? And so now in this pivot, I'm like, okay, I did that. And now I'm going to do it like on the next thing, because I've always kind of had my finger or my toes dipped in a few different things, whether it was magazines or writing books or creating online courses. And now I'm kind of like, all of those things have this umbrella, and it really is about helping people, right, get to the next place. But it's been on my terms of like what medium I want to do that in, right? Do I want to help people by writing this self-help book that I published way back in the day in like 2009, 2007, something like that? And do I want to do that? No, I don't want to publish that kind of self-help book. Do I want to do a magazine where every single month I'm actually, you know, fighting the new trends? Well, I might pull some of that because I think that that is very interesting right now on social, because magazines have gone digital, right? And then figuring out how the social audio platforms and the live streaming platforms can really play into using what I know as an entertainer and a host, if you will, to disseminate that and distribute that information to my audiences. And for me, the love comes back to, how can I help people grow, not only on their business, but in their life, right? Because if they're successful, a lot of times that gives them some sort of fuel, right? That gives them some sort of fuel to say, okay, well, I can do this in my life, or I can do this in my business. I love myself even more, right? Or to figure out why, if they do have that success, why they don't have that other piece, right? And so there's those two pieces that I feel like I'm trying to merge and move forward, is the self-development part, but also, you know, because that's like, you know, it plays into like skincare and self-care and lifestyle, that whole part. But it also plays into the business part, because if you look good and feel good and are emoting that energy, then your business most likely is also going to thrive too, because you show up better, you want to be there, all those things. And so it's kind of that pivot that I think has been a natural progression of being a social butterfly and having certain attractions as far as like people and energy and all of that stuff, and being able to pursue it in a way that's obviously different because the internet is here and the Web3 thing is like popping off. And, metaverse, we just had, Pantone's 2023 color of the year is called magenta, right? But it's really, they're talking about magentaverse, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me was like the ultimate like collaboration, which is like they're thinking about metaverse, but they're thinking about color, right? And so everything is through this new vision, this new lens, and I'm just trying to like put those glasses on.
Love that.
That was the most longest winded answer I've ever given, but I got to it.
The best ending. I am wearing the magenta glasses today, and this is my new world. I love it. I think that's fantastic. Great answer.
Yeah. And honestly, that answer like answered a bunch of other things we kind of would have asked you. So it was a great answer.
Yeah.
Very complete, very articulate, as you said earlier. But one thing that we do like to talk about a lot on the podcast, especially as we're talking to different guests that are in varying industries, is a lot of the myths that come along with being in those industries. We've all seen those memes, for pretty much every type of job that says like what my mom thinks I do, what my friends think I do, what I really do. Right. And so that's kind of something that we like to shine a little light on, certain things about that. So as a social strategist, what would you say is a really common myth that people have about that industry?
Well, that it's literally posting memes every day, all day. I think that would be the most common, is that you are just, playing around on your phone. I think that has, and I hate to say that that's not true, because it is true in one sense, but and I actually posted about this on TikTok. I said one of the biggest things that I learned about being on TikTok is that, and I was talking about products. I said, I have found so many makeup products, but it's not about the makeup products. It's about the consumption of the platform. That if you are able to consume and produce, your production will be better because of your consumption. If that makes sense. If you are so into the platform that you know how it works, that you understand what people feed off of, that you know how to reach those people because you figured out, how it got to you, then when you produce your content, it will be that much better, and it will reach the people that you're trying to reach, and it will have the effect on them, whether it's the saving and the sharing and the whatever, the engagement. It will have the desired effect that you want. And I think that ability to consume is kind of manipulated by people saying, what are you doing? Just scrolling on your phone all day? And it's the consumption that is really the learning that you have to do in order to be a good strategist. Because if you don't know what you don't know, then me saying to you like, oh, you should be on Snapchat, and then not knowing that like things go away in 20, you know what I mean? Like, you should do Snapchat, and like, just to say it, like, people wouldn't believe you. They wouldn't pay the money to have you help them if you don't know what you're talking about. And so, yeah, that's the biggest misconception I would think, is that people just scroll on their phone. That's what they do as a social media strategist, or even just a social media anything. Put anything after that. Manager, analyst, whatever. Like, people just think you're just scrolling, and yeah, you're scrolling for the knowledge, right? I mean, it's fun too. But.
Yeah, it's fun too, especially on TikTok. I mean, I could spend, I do spend way too much time on TikTok, and it's definitely not in the positive production format. It's just the sucking in of all of the things, and I love it.
But you can set a timer.
I could.
I mean, in the app, you can set restrictions, or on your, just
tell
in
my
your
husband. So,
Okay.
That's the last thing I need, for him to sneak onto my phone and set restrictions.
No.
You've already touched on this a little bit about your industry, about being, you have to really learn, you have to really absorb what you're seeing and know what you're talking about. So my question is as being a solopreneur and an entrepreneur, in this industry, what has been the one thing that you have learned in your journey in doing this?
I would say that it is very time consuming and that it is exhausting. And if you don't turn off your notifications or decide to put your phone down or to give yourself a break, you will get burned out. And that's just because there's so many different platforms. And I think that is kind of on purpose. And not just to say there's so many platforms, but there's so many features that come and go. So if you are able to, because some people are just not, there is an addiction aspect to the whole thing. I would say that if you are able to regulate your time and your energy, the energy part is the other thing, is I think that regulating time just is about like saying you're not going to, open your phone at dinner, right? And just give you that space, or not take it into the bathroom, or have certain areas where you're like, yeah, I'll keep it in my pocket when I pick up my kids or whatever. That kind of regulation is one thing. Being able to look at yourself and say, I spend my energy, like the quality energy, where am I spending that? Am I spending that responding to my community online, or is it in person, which I think is really even better, to spend your energy there with the people that you're actually in front of? And if you can regulate that, I think that's the best thing about, what is that? Disconnecting or unplugging? I think there should be a national unplugging day if there hasn't already been one. Is there?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's like
Well,
social media day and getting everybody to go more and more onto.
yeah, maybe we should do that. We should just make one up, a national unplugging day. But then you'd have to be online to like say happy national unplugging, whatever.
You could schedule that post, Sandra, so that the people who are there.
But you know what I mean? If that's the one thing that I think that I've learned, is that if you can negotiate your energy and your time to be working for you. And I think as a solopreneur, that is it's what it's about, is making it work for you and your lifestyle. That will give you the freedom to be able to say, yeah, I already scheduled that post, I'm good. Or I have my system in place, right? Because she's all about systems.
All about systems. Yes,
Kelly is my system. Making sure that you have the system in place to give you that other freedom, because that's what it's all about, is finding your freedom, being able to set your schedule. Like I said, wake up whenever you want. But it is about all of that task, getting it together before you can say, I can walk away. And a lot of people say, if you can't leave your business for 30 days, then it's not a true business, right? So if you can, and that doesn't mean your social media, because, things pop up like, I don't know, like Elon Musk buying Twitter, and you're like, that, I didn't have that on my bingo card, right? So you kind of have to be a little bit present. But still, I think if you can't walk away and just know that something is taken care of, then you haven't set your systems up in a way that is going to work for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love
Great.
that.
And I'm going to be taking all of what you just said and using it in my marketing copy later, because it's 100% true. Like, and you just said it in a way that I think a lot of people would recognize in themselves, the idea of, even when you said it to me and I'm the system person, me thinking leaving my business for 30 days, I was like, oh, geez, I don't know if I could do that's a lot, because that's a lot of preparation to be able to do that. Right. But I think taking that to some degree, whether it's 14 days, 30, whatever, just being able to effectively step away. People think about that when they're in an actual job and they're going on PTO, and who's going to back me up and who's going to do my things while I'm gone, so that I don't come back to an inbox full of emergencies. Right. Right. But we forget to apply that in our own business. Like, there is no backup person. If you're a solopreneur, it's a system, right, or it's a full inbox, right? Those are your options. So I kind of love that. I'm definitely going to work with that. So thank you for that.
Well, and I think about it a little more often because of my husband and him being French, and the French taking either July off or August off. And it's not, it's like a cultural thing, but it's still you know, you have to prepare for that. And I think that if you start incrementally, it might help, you know, just saying I'm not working weekends, or just saying I am going to schedule my 2-week vacation, or going like schools do and having like vacation kind of spread out. But being able to incrementally do that to where you build up to that 30 days. It doesn't have to be like right off the bat, but I do think that it makes a lot of sense if you are, and not saying like in the middle of your mastermind, you're like, peace out. It has to be structured, right? You're like, yeah, do it yourself. But it has to be structured in a way that you know that like, okay, this is, and you know who did it? And I'm forgetting her name right now, but we will find it. She is a very famous author. She sent out an email that said, our staff is going on a break. We'll be back in the fall. She didn't give a date. She just said, we'll be back in the fall. And I was like, really? She was like, we're taking a mental health break, the entire company. And I thought, well, number one, she's got some money to do that because she knows she's retaining her employees. But number two, how great is that?
Yeah.
To be like, we're taking the summer off. And her fans were like, good for you. We'll come back when you do. You know what I mean? And have that audience be with you on that, right? To be like, she's taking him. Does she get to, can I do that? Right? Like, that's what I said. I was like, I just got this notification and I want to do that. Right. I'll find the name of it, of the girl that did that, but it was, I was just like, wow.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That's motivation right there. They're going on vacation for a month. I can do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's do this.
Yes.
Kelly, this is your warning. I just might disappear on you one day.
You don't get to just disappear. Did you hear what she said?
Structure. There's structure.
Planning and preparation.
Yeah, but you're the systems person, so
Yeah.
I'm the flake in the community. I'm allowed to do that. So yeah, I have my ways.
I have to figure out what her name was. It's killing me right now. She just put out a book in like September. Oh my gosh.
When you think of it, let me know.
Renee
Brown.
Oh, Brene Brown. Oh, okay.
Renee. Yes.
That
Brene
totally
Brown.
makes sense. Yes.
She did that. I'm like,
I can see that happening with Brene Brown. Absolutely. I love
absolutely.
her.
Mhm.
Yeah. Everything's
awesome.
a vacation with her because she's
But I was like, she's coming back. I'll be there. Like, I didn't say, you know what I mean? Because there's some, like, let's say you're an influencer, right? You fall off, people are not. They're moving on to the next, right? So if you make your impact with your community, right? If you are showing up for them so much that they look at you and say, she needs a break. Okay, I get that. If they can identify with that and relate to that, then that's like your golden ticket, right? It just makes so much sense.
I think a lot of what you just pointed out has a lot to do with being authentic to your audience and being true to who you are and to your audience. So if you're always, like you mentioned, an influencer and you're always putting on a show and always positive, upbeat, and love my job and everything's great, and then all of a sudden you take a break for a month, that's definitely when you're going to lose your audience because it's not expected. There's no authenticity in that. But if you're honest with them and you let them know, I'm human, my company is being run by a human, we do things, I'm here, this is my life, yeah, I'm taking a break now. I think your audience will be there when you return. I think that little piece of authenticity really is going to play a huge role in disappearing, which would be nice.
She's letting you know that she's ready to be like, she's laying the groundwork right now.
I can see it.
This is my structure.
She's like, if you let her know.
If you do it, that means then I get to do it. I'm just saying. So
we'll just meet in Mexico and some beautiful hot beach.
Oh,
there you go. Love it.
So Sandra, we are doing this podcast and hopefully the goal is to build a stronger community and to have everything about community and being supportive of everybody. And we're asking everybody this same question, which is looking back on your business and up to this point, how can you see that your community, whether it's an online community or your circle of friends and family, just your general network, how have they supported you throughout this success? And yeah, go ahead.
I would say like Kelly's part of my community and she has invited me to be with you guys. So like, I think sharing stories is very important because that helps people understand like where you have failed, where you have succeeded. And it gives people a sense of, the fact that you're not alone all the time. And so I think that knowing that there are people who have been in my community like Kelly, or even people who I just met, like I just spoke at this Spark conference, and one of the people who was another speaker there asked me to be on her podcast. And I was like, sharing stories is the way to support, even if you can't financially benefit someone, right? Sharing their story, whether it's on whatever platforms you have, somebody's going to see it, even if it's just one person. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I got so low views and nobody saw it. And I'm like, no, somebody saw it.
Somebody did.
Right? Somebody saw it. Even if the algorithm saw it, you know what I mean? Somebody saw it somewhere to distribute it to somebody else. And I think that sharing stories is a way that I think that a lot of people have supported me, whether it's sharing my posts on, LinkedIn or wherever. That's one way of supporting, even if you're not able. And I see a lot of people do this on LinkedIn, sharing for reach, commenting for reach, right? To push it further out there, because it's a story that needs to be told, right? And I think that a lot of people have done that for me. And other people like Kelly have invited me onto podcasts like yours. And that I think is continuing the sharing of the stories. And so I think that that's the biggest way that people have supported me right now. I mean, people have worked with me and, paid me that support too, to help them with their businesses. But I think the most common thing is that I see, especially on social, is sharing. And if you can share, just share the button, get that button, hot and ready. When you see something that is worthy of being shared, right? That is going to impact somebody else's life. Or, for me last night, I saved something. I never save things, hardly ever on my TikTok, because I just don't know who's looking at what I'm saving. And I saved this most morbid, horrible thing because I had to show my husband. And I thought, you know what? If anything, I am helping this guy heal, right? Because, and I'm going to tell the story because it was hilarious. This guy said, it was a meme or a trend that's going around. One thing about me is, right? And then you tell the story. His story was that his aunt, or I think it was his aunt, was hosting Thanksgiving Day dinner. And so everybody got on planes, went to her house, and in the story, he says, and then she decided to have this creative direction decision to die on Thanksgiving morning.
No.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh.
So he's telling this story, and he's like dancing along to the music. And he goes, so then we didn't know what to do because there was a corpse in the next room. So do we eat the food that we brought, or do we wait it? And I was just like, I was dying because he was like, this happened. It wasn't like something that he was like made up. This really happened. Right. And then he goes, so we called the guy to like pick up the body. And I'm just like, I've never saved anything, and laughed so hard and almost cried and peed my pants because he was sharing the story, right? And then the next video, and it goes on, and they ate the food, right? Because that's what my aunt would want us to do, right? And I was just like, oh my God, like this whole thing is so horrible. But when you hear stories like that, you're envisioning like, well, I would eat the food too. Like, what would you do, right? And so then they get the body, and then they're like, but what about dessert? Do we eat and I was just like, I cannot. So I saved this one. I unsaved it after I showed my husband because I was just like, I can't. But I went to the next video where he actually said, so many people asked about my aunt. Let's pay tribute to her. Here's her photo. This is what she's about. And I thought, you know what? He had to do that in a humorous way that's his way of grieving, right? Is telling a story using a trend, but it was real. He really put up her photo. She really did die. Like this really happened. But for me, saving something like that, I was just like, it's sharing it. And I don't know if that's like helping him heal, but I do know that for me, I was just like, these are the stories that people tell that you are, and I'm telling it to you, right? So like, I'm telling it to you. And it was crazy. If you find it, it's probably going to trend very soon. But I was just like, wow, because social brings those things to us when we need them. Sometimes, the algorithm sometimes knows a little bit more about us than we probably know about ourselves. And so community wise, I think sharing stories is the best way that you can support each other. And that I think people have supported me.
I absolutely love that. Stories are so important. It's who we are as humans. We date back thousands and thousands of years. All we did was we told stories to each other. That's what it is all about.
And if you need to tell this story about the guy, because it's so like, oh, I've never seen something like that. Like you see a shock and awe and everything on every platform, and then you're scrolling. But I was like, this was meant for me in this space right now.
Wow. That's crazy. I'm going to have to go look for it later because now I need to see the whole content.
I know. I wish I had not unsaved it because I would just share it with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of all that and like getting to the practical, we will, of course, because I know you're going to have a lot of these, we will be putting all of these in the show notes. But can you tell us, where can our listeners find you online?
So the first place I would always direct you is to LinkedIn. And you can just search my name, Sandra Colton-Medici. And then for the rest of all of the other socials, it's at College of Style. And the way that it sounds, College of Style.
Love
Nice
it.
and simple.
Super simple. And Jolene, you and I could learn from that because
Yes, we could.
we are not that concise when it comes to answering that question. But I love it. And we will put it in the show notes for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, I was just going to say the easiest way to get that is to make sure that you trademark your business name, and then you can have legal recourse to make sure that you have them all on every single platform.
Good.
Yeah, it's not even so much that we don't, because we use success through community. Like we're using that. And even as ourselves, like we've chosen to brand in our own names versus like a business name. But it's the conciseness of go here first and then go here. Like we're just like, well, I'm on here and I'm on here and I'm on, we just need to get a little better at that, like slating aspect of that.
Yeah. Well, I think that for businesses, especially, solopreneurs, I think that the legitimacy that Pinterest, that LinkedIn provides, I think helps you just go to my LinkedIn, because there's a lot of business opportunities that come from that as well. The social aspect of being present and having a visible online, presence for your business is another thing. But LinkedIn is definitely more business oriented. So I would say everybody should make sure to start with that one. Or if you're monetizing on like YouTube, start with the one that's going to make you the money,
Yep.
That's what business is all about. Sometimes we forget that as solopreneurs. That's exactly one of the reasons why we're here.
Right?
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Sandra, so much. This has been so much fun. Like usually I'm on the other side of this with you. So it's been really fun getting to learn more about you. So I love that. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Have a good, warm rest of the day. It's, and I will talk to you on the flip side.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us this week on the Success Through Community podcast,
where our goal is to support female solopreneurs through community.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure you check out the show notes for links, transcripts, and so much more.
And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to the podcast.
Ooh, and don't forget to mention us to your community.
And if you can't wait for the next episode, be sure to join us on Patreon,
where our community is made possible by listeners like you. So thank you so much for your support.
Until next time.